Well, see, when you look at somebody like me, I grew up here. There's nothing you can tell me about Memphis that I don't already know.
There's nothing you can tell me about Memphis.
From the boardroom to the streets.
That I don't already know.
With Mike from Memphis, man. Together we can fix things. Really.
When you say, I want to be treated fairly, and I want a voice.
Yeah. He saw things weren't fair, so he chose to run for mayor. You get up and do something when you really care. It's Memphis 360.
I'm with you.
In the meantime,
it's Memphis 360.
In the meantime, in between time, we got folks shooting people up out the frame. Anybody said a word. We've become accustomed to people dying in this city.
Yeah. It's Memphis 360.
Turning the TV on and the news and see our loved ones and see young people that are out of control. And now you see, okay. We talk about incarceration. We talk about the youth. We talk about giving them the ability. We talk about investing in young people and investing in the community. See, I hate ignorance. I hate when people make decisions about things and they make statements and they haven't done their research.
How can you fix the problem when you don't even know what the problem is?
We need some help in this city.
It's Memphis 360.
See, I hate ignorance.
It's Memphis 360.
And good evening. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Memphis 360, the television show that we say go from the boardroom to the streets. We try to be informative. We try to bring those individuals in the community that are doing good things. Those that are on the top, those that we say are successful, the mayor, we've had, Commissioner Jones, Clerk Halbert, we had the privilege of having Judge Lambert, and some very prominent people. I even had my wife on a couple of weeks ago, since she hit 6 million on Facebook.
Yeah.
So she was just a little bit famous. But I am so happy today because we have a special guest in the studio today. We have Judge Betty Thomas Moore, who is a civil judge in Division 5 Civil Court General Sessions. And we're going to have her we're just going to kind of chop it up with her a little bit, talk to her. For those of you that don't know what chop it up means, we're going to just kind of talk to her about all of the ins and outs of General Sessions Civil Court. And we're also just going to get to know Judge Moore just a little bit better. She's done a lot of great and wonderful things since she's been on the bench, and I think she's made history being over in General Sessions Civil Courts as well, and we're going to talk about all of that. But before I go into that, I want to send a shout out to Renisha Joy of Joyride in the City. Young lady, entrepreneur, got that good entrepreneurial spirit, doing all kinds of things on her own, trying to make it happen. And if you get a chance, she's down there now. One of her endeavors is she is riding those little buggies, the little horses down there on 3rd Street, Beale Street, what have you. If you go down there, ask for Renisha Joy. And then I'd also like to send out shout out to Aisha Taylor of PDT, Purpose Driven Tees. She, young lady, is the owner and CEO of Purpose Driven Tees. If you like all of those nice little t-shirts that have all of those good saying like allegedly and different things like that, you can definitely go to mypdt.com and you can see her t-shirts and all of that good stuff. Guess what, y'all? I went and voted today. I have already voted. I have cast my ballot.
Yeah.
I have chosen those that I want to lead this county. And I encourage you to do the same. please, please, please. I know a lot of times people get frustrated because I was just a little bit today, and I have been since early voting because I found out that they only had one voting site early on. And I just think that that is a travesty. When you have a county that comprises over 900,000 individuals and you have one voting poll open, and I think it was good for me because I walked right in because there was nobody there. But I think it's bad for our democracy and our ability of the citizens in Shelby County to be able to vote. I know they're going to open up some more polls on Saturday, supposedly, and they're going to open up some more polls next week. But my thing is, they should have had them open from the beginning to allow individuals the ability to exercise their civil rights. You know, and especially us in the African American community, we've been through so much to attain these rights. And, you know, it was almost like a rite of passage when I was coming up. My whole family would actually walk to the polls. My grandmother, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters. And I can remember when I was a little kid, I couldn't wait till it was my opportunity and my turn. And it was almost thought to be, you have an obligation to vote. So I was just a little, discouraged in the fact that there is only one voting poll that's open currently. And I got into a debate with a young lady. She was actually a seasoned lady over at the voting polls, and I was verbalizing my discontent. And she was like, well, Michael, you just got to think positive. And I said, ma'am, and believe me, because she was like, we're doing great and wonderful things. And I said, you know what? You are so polite. I love your spirit. I love the things that you're saying and you're doing, but it does not take away from the fact that I think there should be availability of polls for individuals. People from Cordova, Millington, Germantown, Arlington, it's very hard for them to get downtown, and especially that location. There is no parking. Parking is a problem, and it kind of discourages people. Yeah, a lot of people that are working downtown and working in that vicinity, they have the ability to walk over to the Shelby County building, or it's part of the Shelby County building, and to lodge their vote. But and I took advantage of that. But my heart also hurt for those individuals that didn't have the opportunity to do that. Now, I want to do a disclaimer before we get into this with Judge Moore, because we're going to get into it with Judge Moore. And I'm going to open up the phone lines. The number to call is 244-6874. 244-6874, and I'll be repeating it throughout the broadcast. If in fact you would like to talk to Judge Moore, ask Judge Moore some questions about civil courts, how to maneuver through the system, how to come down to the civil court house, and we're going to talk about some of the things that she's seen, and she's been on the bench a long time, but I'm gonna let her tell you guys about this. But I definitely want to avail ourselves to the knowledge that this young lady has. But as I was saying, nobody pays to come on this show. I want to get that out there. This is not necessarily an endorsement. What this is I definitely want to make sure, as I always say, give the citizens the opportunity to get to know those individuals that they're voting for. And I know a lot of times, people want to have people that are running for office pay. And don't get me wrong, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Nobody pays for my show. I pay for my own show. And I do that because I think I have an obligation to the citizens of the city of Memphis to inform them. So I have definitely asked some people to come onto the show so that you can make an informed decision based upon the conversations that we have and the information that they give. You can determine if this is an individual that you would like to vote for. I had the privilege of having Sheriff Bonner on the show last weekend. That was a good conversation. He's been on several times throughout my tenure being on SVP TV network. And it was a pleasure to have him in the studio once again. So, there was one other thing, and then I promise I'm gonna get to Judge Moore. One other thing. I want to say to all of you people that are out there on social media platforms and different things like that, when you're looking at individuals pages. I just want you to know you're looking at stuff that people want you to see. You know, they put up the parties, they put up the happy times, they put up the good things that they're doing and going through and all of that. And a lot of times you don't necessarily see the pain that they're going through. We got a lot of people in pain. You don't necessarily see the suffering that they are enduring. You know, we're coming out of a pandemic. Hopefully it's going away, hopefully. But you got a lot of people that went through a lot. They lost a lot of loved ones. Some of them lost a lot of their financial stability. You know, we have a lot of young people, and Judge is probably going to talk about that, hopefully, that are coming through her courtrooms because of their financial situation and different things like that. So when you're looking at people's Facebook page, just look at it as just that, you know. People are just giving you some insight to their life, but you're on the outside looking in. And everybody, when they're putting stuff like that out there in public, they're trying to put their best foot forward. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I don't want anybody to ever think that Mike Williams is one of those people, because I put all of my happy times on. I really and truly do. And I try to share some insight to my life. But I will tell you, there are times that are very, very, very dark. Those valleys that I go through as well. And I just try to deal with them in the best way that I can. So don't get disillusioned by things that you see on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, what have you. Those are only shows, people. And those are only people putting information out that they want to put out. All right. Welcome to the show, Judge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity.
You know what? I've been looking forward to this. Man, I was blowing her phone up, blowing her email up, trying to get her on the show, you know, and I am so happy to have the opportunity to have you in the house with us.
Well, I am pleased to be here. Thank you again for having me. It is a pleasure to come and sit in this space with you and to give your audience just a little bit of glimpse into who Betty Moore is all about.
Well, you guys can learn a lot. I'm going to tell you, you can learn a lot from this young lady because she has a lot of knowledge. She's been around in the court systems for a while. And, you know, if you have any questions, you can call 244-6874, 244-6874. Y'all know when I have them crazy shows and all of that wild stuff, y'all be blowing my phone up. You know, but this is an opportunity for you to get some knowledge. And, you know, hopefully you'll never have to use it, you know, but it's one of those things, you know, it's good to have it in case you need it, but you don't really want to have to use it, okay? So, first of all, Judge, tell us a little bit about Betty Moore.
Oh, my God.
I want to hear about Betty Moore coming up in the city of Memphis. What school did you go to?
Betty Moore from South Memphis.
South we got another South Memphian.
South Memphis girl.
Okay.
I was born and raised here in Memphis, Tennessee. Mom and Dad lived in South Memphis with us 10 children. 10 kids.
Ooh,
10 kids.
That's a big family.
That was a big family. And I've lost 2 brothers.
Okay.
So there are 8 of his kids left. My father passed in 2013, but Mom and Dad came from Oxford, Mississippi.
Oxford,
Mississippi. And when they came to Memphis from Oxford, looking for a better life for themselves and for their children that they hoped to have, they hoped really a whole lot because there were 10 of us. And so I come from Carver High School, Carver, and graduated from high school in San Juan. I'm still young. I came out of Carver in 75. Okay. And Lincoln Junior High School in A.B. Hill.
Wow.
And I was the first child in my family to go on off to college. Wow. And my father was a cement mason. He also worked at Roadway. And so he worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs to take care of all of his family. My mom stayed at home because 10 kids. And I'll tell people the story sometimes that my mom and dad always emphasized education to us because mom and dad didn't really have an opportunity to really go to school.
Wow.
Mom, 3rd grade education, dad, 8th grade education, but went on to get his GED because he was able in the union to elevate himself in a program that they had that caused him to travel some and recruit people to the union. But my mom was always at home, always cooking those great meals, always taking care of us kids, and going to the church house. Church house.
So you grew up in the
Memphis.
church?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. And grew up in the church that Sunday and us teen kids required us to participate, to work in the church. And so that's how I learned about faith and working in the church and family. You go to church all day Sunday, you go back to church on Sunday evening for the musicals.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And Wednesday Bible study, and the heaven and hell parties.
Yes.
Can I say that on too? Heaven and hell party? Yeah. And so we grew up in the church, and so my growing up in the church enabled me to have the strong faith and connection to community. Because when we lived in South Memphis, my mom, being at home, was always cooking, and she was always taking care of the neighborhood. And in our neighborhood where I grew up, there were families. There were houses full of kids. You know, you get home you get to the porch when the light came on, because you could stay outside as long as you were on the porch.
Wow.
You couldn't be outside in the dark anywhere else but on the porch unless you were at Miss So-and-so's house down the street.
And mom and daddy knew where you were.
And they knew where you were. It was that unity in that neighborhood. But growing up in the church gave me the stability, the faith that I needed, that I wanted to someday go to college and become a lawyer. At the age of 12, when I would argue all day long about anything, my dad said, you need to be a lawyer because you'll argue with a brick. And
argue with a brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so going off to college at University of Memphis and then the law school.
Okay. So you went to law school?
I went to law school. Everything I did as far as education is here in Memphis.
So let me ask you this. Was it Memphis State?
Memphis State, of course.
Okay. You said University of
I said University of Memphis because, I just figured people know about University of Memphis, but you and I know about Memphis State. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, the law school, as I said. So going to law school, and I like what you said about the postings that people put out there sometimes. We always like to put on that face that says, I'm okay. Everything is good. Everything is wonderful. My life is good. My finances are good. Everything is wonderful. But behind that mask, we're hurting.
Yeah.
All of us are hurting. And we see that hurt in the court oftentimes.
Wow.
But I like to tell people whenever they come into the courthouse, I do a lot of community service also, and I talk to the kids, and I talk to neighborhood associations. And I like to tell people, look, I've got a journey.
Yeah.
My story isn't one always of being in a black robe. I struggled in a marriage. I'm married to Alvin Moore now, my second husband, who is my tall drink of water.
Stop it!
My wonderful friend, my honey bunny. Yes, he is. And I tell you, my children's dad was a high school sweetheart, and it didn't work. When we were separated, military guy, hard to catch up with, and no money, down and out, parents, sisters and brothers helping out, no money, collectors calling, bill collectors, been there.
No, not the judge.
Yes, sir.
Not the judge.
I ain't always been a judge. That's the thing.
But you know what? I like that because I tell young people all the time, don't look at me where I am.
Yes.
You don't know my story.
You don't know my story.
You don't know I worked 3 jobs to go.
Come on now. Yes.
You don't know that I was in the Army, the police department, I'm 61. We'll be 62 pretty soon. And everybody, Mike, Mr. Williams, you got it going on. Bruh, it was a long road to home. It
was a journey.
We didn't have food in the house.
Say that.
I had to pawn stuff to be able to make it. So, I love the fact that you came down to that level, Judge.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, tell us
But
about
you know, I tell, especially the young ladies that come into my courtroom who seem to be frustrated about what's going on in the courtroom, as if the judge does not understand when I tell you I don't have enough money. I was like, yes, I do. I know what it means when you don't have enough money to buy food for your children. Where you have to decide, do I pay this bill or do I buy some food this month? Because my baby's got to eat.
Exactly.
I know the bill collectors, because guess what? We didn't have cell phones back then, Mike. You already know.
I already know.
Where you can just say, oh, that's the bill collectors. I'm not going to answer that phone. No, you pick up that phone every time, and the bill collectors were on the other end saying, you owe me. And I'm like, can you give me just a little bit more time? Utility bills? Oh, yeah. Been in that line, begging for just a little bit more time to pay. And so I want folks to know what my story is. I am not ashamed of my journey.
Come on.
Because if I did not have that journey that God allowed me to have,
You wouldn't be the person that you are.
I wouldn't be the person that I am now, and I would not be able to understand those that come before me and judge cases that come before me with that temperance, that mercy that you need. I wouldn't be able to say, you know what? I understand exactly what you're saying. Let's see what we can do about this. Let's see what the law will allow me as your judge to do to help you with this thing.
Stop. We're going to back up out of that a little bit.
All right.
I don't want to get to the judge yet.
All right.
What compelled you to want to become a judge? I mean, you know, just like for me, I was a police officer. I was a police officer in the Army, and I was a police officer when I came back to Memphis.
Yeah.
But I knew at an early age that I wanted to be a police officer, you know? And I knew that I had to make sacrifices and do the things that I needed to do to meet the requirements of that position.
Yeah.
So what compelled you to want to say, you know what, I'm finna do this thing, you know, because I find so many young people now, I call them microwave. They want it right now.
Yeah.
They want it right now. You know, it's kind of like, hey, you making all that money. Why had I
want some of that right now, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what compelled you to want to be a judge? Because that is a long journey.
Well, I'll be honest and say that I initially didn't really have a desire to be a judge. In the back of my mind, I thought, that's one place to go.
Okay.
Eventually, but I was a reader, and I still like to read. I don't read as much as I used to, but I love reading. My father would come to my room, and there's darkness, and I am reading so much, and I'm just reading in the dark. He said, well, I've told you time and again, you've got to stop reading in the dark. But I knew at a young age that I wanted to be able to do something, not only for my community, because I liked when my mom would send me down the street to Miss Mary's and help her clean up or read to her or whatever. I liked that kind of service to my neighborhood. And like I said, I could argue now. My dad, look, I'm not going to tell y'all. My dad would tell me to do something. I was like, okay, but Daddy, why do I have to do that in that way? And he'd look. Daddy was smart, man.
Especially back then.
Back then, he was smart.
Back then.
But he knew the kind of child that I was. I was very curious, and I was very, very matter of fact. And so eventually, when I said that, he said, girl, you would argue with a brick. And I was like, well, I'm going to be a lawyer. I always like watching Perry Mason and the other little legal shows and stuff like that. I was like, I can do that.
Okay.
I can win cases. I can do this, that, and the other. So I always, when I thought and got old enough to figure out, what do you want to be when you grow up and answer that question? I want to be a lawyer.
So, what are the current requirements to be a lawyer? No, to be a judge. I'm sorry.
Well, you have to be. You have to be licensed to practice law. You have to have been practicing law for at least 5 years, and be in good standing. That's what it takes to be a judge. And of course, 3 years of law school, passing the bar is what it takes to become a licensed practicing attorney. Now, I tell my young kids that if you want to go to law school, get good grades. And don't despair if your grades aren't the best, because you do have to take the LSAT, the LSAT, which is the entrance exam, if you will, for law school. And here's another part of my journey. I wasn't the best high school student. I wasn't the smartest high school student, but I was a student who was diligent. I persevered.
Right.
I wanted it bad enough that I was reaching out prayerfully to get it. And so I tell students, you know what? Strive to be the best.
Okay.
But if you can't get to those straight A's and the D's list, don't give up what your dream it may be.
Right.
Because your journey may be like my journey, where I can tell folk, you know what, I wasn't that straight A student, and so don't you give up. And then maybe that would encourage someone else. And so I wasn't the best student in law school, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
When I went to law school, I was married and I had 2 kids at the time. You talk about a struggle.
Exactly.
A struggle, because going to law school the first year, you could not work outside of law school.
Wow.
So my mom and my sisters and brothers, and oh my goodness, my law school friends, Carolyn, Teresa Jones, my good friend who passed a year ago, you already know. I mean, man, I would go to classes, and my professors at U of M were wonderful. I take my 2 kids, and they'd sit in the back, because I didn't have a baby. Yes, sir. That's the kind of community that I was involved in.
Yeah.
That's the kind of community. So I think the teachers, the professors saw in my face this desire to make it. Because if I became what I desired to be, if I was blessed to become that attorney, then my kids would see what perseverance is all about.
Wow.
That you don't give up. Then my children's friends, the young folk that I talk to, will see, you mean you went to law school and you had 2 kids? Yes, but I didn't give up. Came out of law school, and shall I tell them this or shall I not? I'm spilling my guts now, so why not? Heck. I had to take the bar 3 times before I passed the bar.
Wow.
3 times. The third time, glory.
Yeah.
I was grateful.
Yeah.
But you cannot give up. You know, whoever may be listening, you may be a parent who wants to encourage a child. It may be a child who is listening. You cannot give up. You can't say, you know what, I can't do it, so I'm not going to even try anymore. No. You keep trying. Because in my trying, in my faithfulness, what'd you say? Judge Betty Moore? What? It's a blessing.
Judge Betty.
I'm talking about being judged now. And after I worked with the PD's office for almost 15 years as a public defender. And I wanted to do criminal defense. I always knew I wanted to do criminal defense because I liked the idea of dressing up, putting all the evidence together, doing my thing, presenting it. And I was good at it.
I heard that.
I was really good at it.
I can believe it.
And I was assigned initially at the public defender's office with Judge Joe Brown when that court first opened.
Wow.
And that was an interesting court there because he was
unorthodox.
He was very unorthodox.
Yeah.
He was I don't want to say that he was eccentric, but he's a smart guy who knew the things that he needed and wanted to do to better not only the courtroom, but the people that came through.
Come on. Yeah.
And so he did these eccentric things, these unorthodox things to try to, for the betterment of the folks that came through. And so I enjoyed the trial work. I was one of the few women, and I'm sure Judge Lambert talked about this when she came on, the capital defense team.
Exactly.
Handling nothing but murder cases that were eligible for the death penalty. And so the PD's office had a capital defense team. Myself, Lois Lambert at the time, there was a team. I think Carolyn Watkins may have been involved in that at that time because she'd been on the Capital Defense team, investigator. And at that time, as you probably may be aware, you know, the Public Defender's Office wasn't getting nearly the resources that it needed to properly make sure that we were handling all the cases that we got, which were tons of cases, and the resources to investigating things like that. But I worked hard. I worked 7 days a week, it seemed like. I would take my work home all of the time and got to the point where I was thankful to have the kind of reputation where those inmates would go back and talk about their lawyers, and lawyers would come back and say, I want Betty Thomas. I want Betty Thomas. That's who I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted that kind of reputation because that meant that I was doing what I was supposed to do.
A lot of people have this stigma about PDs.
Oh, yeah.
They have this stigma about people. Man, they
Public offenders.
They go try to get you to plea. They try to get you to plea out because they're trying to keep the case rate up.
Oh, yeah.
Different things like that. But there are, because even Judge Lambert was a PD.
Yes, sir.
You know, she talked about it. And I will tell you, I love going down into her courtroom.
Yes.
I go into her courtroom and I sit there because she's just handling business. She's no nonsense. She's compassionate. But at the same time, she is about her work.
Yes, sir.
And she is running that courtroom, and they, you know, it's not funny, but sometimes they may have 190, 200 cases because they go straight through on their docket, and she just rolling. She's just rolling.
Because we recognize that as far as the litigants that come in, even the inmates, you want to move your cases as quickly and as efficiently as you possibly can. For me, in General Sessions Civil Court, people come in, they're either taking off a little bit of time from work, or they got doctor appointments, or whatever the circumstances are. I laugh and joke with folk coming in sometimes, and I'm like, okay, so you know it's early in the morning, anybody got that cup of coffee, that sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, because it's early, people are running into court, and then you want to get them taken care of.
Okay, we ain't got inside the courtroom yet.
Not yet, we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
So tell me about how long have you been a judge, and what's historic about you going over to General Sessions?
Oh my gosh, I've been on the bench for 24 years. I was elected, almost 24. September will be 24. And I was elected for my first term in 1998.
Wow.
And so I am finishing my third term, going into my fourth term for when I get reelected. And September 1, come on now.
I see you claiming it.
Yeah, I'm claiming it's already done. Because what's mine is mine, and I'm doing a good job with it. So, but the bottom line is that I've been on the bench a long time. And when you're a judge, you have to be, you know, there's that saying, fair and impartial. Yes, that's a part of it. Patient, treat people with respect, but you have to make sure that you're handling the business of the court, that you are firm where you need to be, that you're compassionate where you need to be, but that you're doing the business of the court in the way that the law allows and in the way that the citizens can come in and say, I feel good about the process. I might not win a case. I might not win it because it didn't go my way and the judge listened to all the evidence and the proof, but the judge gave me all the information that I need so that I know what the process is about, and that litigant can walk out of the door saying, that was a pretty good experience, and that judge is all right.
How many African-American females were in the civil court when you got there?
Oh my, you asked me about that history making that I've accomplished.
I'm going to have to pull it out of you.
You gotta pull it out of me.
Slide right over it.
Well, I am the first woman in General Sessions Civil Court, and of course the first African-American woman to sit on the bench in General Sessions Civil Court.
So you were the first woman and African-American woman.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. And that's a blessed moment. That's a blessed moment. I'm telling you, and I'm grateful for that opportunity.
Knocking down them doors.
Knocking down doors, and something that I never anticipated.
Right.
But when it came to me, I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've got to do those things that are going to set up for other women and African-American women coming in and having opportunity. And as you know now, we're coming in droves.
Right. As a matter of fact, I believe now, out of 6 courtrooms, 4 of them are females.
Exactly. Paved the way, Judge Betty, paved the way.
4 of them are females.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how wonderful is that?
So now let's get into the courtroom. You've been in the courtroom 21 years.
24 years.
24 years. You're the first female, because we're going to slide away from everything else. It doesn't matter. You were the first female.
Yes.
You were the first female. So tell us about the business of the court. What kind of cases do you handle? Do people come to your courtroom for?
The General Sessions Court is a court that handles a lot of cases. You will hear that we handle we have the most voluminous cases in the state. In other words, we handle so many cases it outnumbers probably over in General Sessions Criminal Court at times, just because we are a court of first impression. What that means is that most of the times people come to our court who never come to court before because they've got a lawsuit that they want to file. General Sessions Civil Court handles lawsuits that are valued at $25,000 or less, unless it is an eviction or a replenishment where you're trying to maybe repossess something. It could be a car, could be furniture, could be medical equipment, because I had a case where medical equipment was being repossessed, and foreclosures, and those kinds of cases have unlimited amounts of money. I've had $1 million house before. Wow. I've had medical equipment valued at over $200,000.
Wow.
And so those kinds of cases are more. The kinds of cases that are $25,000 or less that we've handled, car accident cases, evictions, a lot of evictions.
Well, that seems to be the big thing,
That's always,
right
that has
now,
always. Well, I told someone, they said, well, it looks like y'all probably are getting more evictions than you ever have. I said, yeah, because of COVID, we have had a lot of backup, perhaps.
Right.
I said, but evictions, ever since I have been on the bench, have always probably been the most cases that have ever been filed. Eviction cases. Eviction cases. And when you've got the debt collection cases, they run a close second. And sometimes, depending upon the month, they may surpass, but eviction cases. Any kind of lawsuit valued at $25,000 or less, which might include someone repairing your car, not doing a good job, and now you're suing them. Maybe they're suing you because you haven't paid. Somebody repairing your house. I've had a case where a man sued because his friend was taking care of a pig that he had. Then the friend got mad at him and took the little piggy to the market.
Oh, no.
And he was suing the friend for like $65, the value of the poor little pig.
Here in the city of Memphis?
Here in Memphis, sir.
Wow.
In Shelby County. And then I've had a case where you had family members, and we get a lot of family members suing because of a punch bowl. Somebody's suing over the alteration of a dress. I've had people who come in. The oddest one that I've had is a young lady who was suing a customer for failure to pay for a, drum roll, lap dance. Yeah. So, but the bottom line is that if you got a case that you want to bring to court, and it's $500, $5,000, $25,000, we respect what you're doing, because if you want it, we can handle it.
Pay that filing fee.
Pay the filing fee, and you can do it, and we'll hear it, and we'll take care of you. Your $5 case is if it was a $5 million case, because that's what we're there for. And we also do involuntary mental health commitments. There are 6 of us judges, and we have 2 months a year each where we do the involuntary mental health commitments. Before COVID, we have a little courtroom that is built at MMHNI, which is at the Memphis Mental Health Institute, which is over at the old William Bold Hospital now. And the hospitals like Lakeside, Crestwind, all behavioral hospitals, veterans, wherever they have mental health patients that need to remain in the hospital because they're still a danger to self or others, then there's a hearing where the judge appoints an attorney to represent the patient, and the state has the attorney that's there. The hospital has the attorney representing them. However, it works out so that I hear proof and I decide whether or not that patient is still a danger to self or others and still needs to remain in the hospital. But we handle those cases, and the eviction cases can be a humongous number, and with COVID, even more so.
So what should citizens expect when they come to civil court? Like you say, a lot of times individuals have not been involved in the court system. They're not criminals. You got people that have reached the rightful age of 60, 70, or 50, or what have you, and they've never been in the court system. So if I was to walk into 140 Adams, what should I expect?
Well, with us not being a court of record, and that just means that you don't automatically have a court reporter sitting down there taking down everything that you say.
Right.
We don't have jury trials. We judges are the triers of fact. We're the ones that make the final decision. People that come to our court, most of the time, probably I would say about 70%, and that might be lowballing it a little bit, represent themselves. And I always have to tell those individuals who represent themselves that we're not a small claims court, because oftentimes you hear that title, small claims court. We're not a small claims court because the small claims court is not a formal court where you have to follow the laws and the rules and procedures. In our courts, in the state of Tennessee, you have to follow the laws, the rules, and the procedures. So you need to at least be knowledgeable. One of the things that I have done since I've been on the bench is to create guidelines that I give to everybody who comes to court, and especially those individuals that are having a trial. And the guidelines are basic information, not a substitute for hiring an attorney. And I tell people, if you can get a lawyer, do that. Because if you got $5 or $5,000, that money is important to you, and you want your money, or whatever you're going to do as far as filing a lawsuit or defending a lawsuit. So people do need to understand, number one, that it's not like Judge Joe Brown, Judge Judy, Judge Mathis. If it were, I'd be making $2 million, $45 million a year, and I don't make that kind of
She
money.
would be sitting here on a
And I would
show
be
like
sitting here.
360.
I'd be hanging out somewhere with $45 million.
I know that's
and that's entertainment. The TV shows are entertainment.
Judge Judy is rich.
Judge Judy is rich, and Judge Judy is mean. She is just mean. I mean, there is no way that in a real court of law that you could get away too long with talking to people in a way that is disrespectful and abusive, if you will. And so it's entertainment. I call it Jerry Springer courtroom, Jerry Springer journalism, things like that. And so you come to court, you go to the clerk's office. The clerk's office and the individuals, the staff that work there are wonderful people, but they can't handle your case for you.
Exactly.
In other words, they can't answer all the legal questions that you may need. Can't give legal advice. You're on your own, and people can get frustrated by that because they're looking for some guidance about, okay, I got this case, what do I do? And when you come down to 140 Adams and you go to room 106 to file your paperwork, you need to have a working knowledge about how to file your paperwork, what kind of paperwork to file. In General Sessions Court, we have created already, at least the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee, to make it easy for individuals filing cases, forms. You don't have to do like the big courts, like circuit court that has jury trials, where you have to create your own lawsuit paperwork. We have the forms that you fill in, but when you fill the forms in, you still have to know what to do and what to say, because you don't want to run into the problem of filing the wrong paperwork, paying the money, and then have to go back and start all over again. And so you do need to know what to do. Now, let me say this. I know sometimes people will come in and say, Judge, I talked to a lawyer, and he or she did not want to handle my case, or I can't afford a lawyer. And so we know that you're in a position sometimes where you are going to represent yourself. That's why we're there. But we judges have to follow the law. I'll also tell you that, we in the state of Tennessee has been very concerned about access to justice for individuals who don't have lawyers or who are representing themselves. So I've been on that committee where we have attempted to create user-friendly forms, ensure that the court is friendly, if you will, to self-represented litigants, which means that, to be honest, there's a little bit of leniency there, but judges can't act like lawyers and judges. We can't play both roles. And so lawyers understand and judges understand that there has to be a little bit of give when it comes to self-represented litigants, but not so much give, if you will, where a lawyer or the judge is jeopardizing the process that is in place. Because sometimes people will come in and say, well, Judge, I've never done this before, so can you tell me? And I have to explain that there's only so much that the judge can do. So that's why I have created the guidelines, and I suggest to folks that, the law library in the courthouse on the 3rd floor is open to the public. You just have to go in, check in, and do the research. Google is awesome. At times, you still need to check to make sure that whatever you're researching is correct. But Googling sometimes helps as far as looking at issues and checking out laws and things like that and seeing what's applicable in your case. Because it can be difficult. It can be frustrating. It can be, I want to pull my hair out kind of situation when you're coming to court trying to handle a case that you know I deserve to be compensated. And we want you to get that compensation if you're entitled to it. But you've got to follow the procedure. You've got to follow the law, because there have been oftentimes, Mike, when I know that a person representing him or herself has a good case, but is not able to articulate that information to the court within the guidelines of the law, and there's a lawyer on the other side. And, you know, the lawyer knows what to do, what to ask, what to object to.
What to say.
And that person may fail at his or her attempt, or even if they're pro se litigants, both of them, if the plaintiff is not able to articulate, the defendant is not able to articulate, it may be a situation, as it has happened often, where I got to cut that baby in half. I do a little Solomon. I do a little Solomon. And I'm grateful for Solomon.
Cut that baby in half.
Yes.
Split the baby.
Split that baby. Because here's the thing. I really want people to leave out of my courtroom understanding the process. I spend a lot of time, I think lawyers will, and I think you said in my courtroom enough that you see me taking a lot of time with individuals, explaining the process, talking to people, asking them questions and letting them ask me questions. I don't do it, and I try not to do it overboard, because, and spend a lot of time with everybody who's there. Right. It's like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. But I try to do it enough so that people can at least understand as much as you can that there's a process, and like I said earlier, that if you don't get what you want, you would feel like, okay, well, I tried, she let me speak, and she let me tell my side of the story, and that's all I needed. That's what I wanted.
I talked about Judge Lambert over on the criminal side, and there are other good judges on the criminal side as well. I've watched Judge Turner work.
Oh, yeah.
Judge Montesi, Judge Dwyer. I go and sit in those courtrooms.
I know you do.
And I sit in those more frequently because they're in the building where my office is. And a lot of times I'll come over to 140 to actually sit in the courtrooms as well. And I'm going to tell you, just like Judge Lambert over on the criminal side, I love sitting in her courtroom too. I don't stay too long. You don't have to, because you can get the gist of what's going on real fast and in a hurry. Well, first of all, let me tell you, I always see her in the hallway prior to going to court, or when she gets an opportunity, and she's out there talking to the citizens in the hallway. And if it's anything she can take care of, or any direction or guidance that she can give them, then this is just, y'all know Mike Williams. I tell it like it is. If I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I don't like it. If it's something good, I'm going to tell you what people do good. And this is honest to God truth. I see her in the hallways, and she's talking to people. She's directing and guiding and trying to, if she can expedite something, expedite it. If somebody's there confused, she's trying to give them direction. This is before she even goes on the bench. She doesn't have a robe on then. She'll have on her little sweats, or let me take that back.
That too, though.
Normally when she come to court, though, she's not in sweats, but on some of those days off, when she's just in the area, she'll have on sweats. She just worked out or ran or did whatever it is that she does, and you'll see her bopping through the courtroom, and she's still, okay, what's going on? What do you need? What, like that little motherly kind of thing, or that thing of concern. You know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you, that's one of the things I like about you is your compassion for people. You know what I'm saying? The compassion for people. And that's been one of the things that I guess draw me to people who, if you have a genuine concern for people, because some people just do things to do things. Some people do things for position. Some people do things for prominence. Some people do things for power. And some people do things for money. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get paid for the job that you do and all of the schooling that you have. I don't make no mistakes. I don't make any excuses about all of that. But it's a plus when you come to that same position of authority and you have compassion for people at the same time ensuring that the letter of the law is followed, regardless of whether you're on the business side, regardless of whether you're on the homeowner side, or if you're on the resident side, if you're the resident or if you are the customer or what have you. It just, from my appearance or from my observation, what I have seen is she and her willing, man. Hey, okay, all right, okay, yep, we're going to do this. Okay, now please explain to me, sir. Okay, take your hat off. And respect the court. You know what I mean? Put your mask on. But at the same token, it's always with compassion. And I find that people are more apt and willing to accept things when it's, you're stern. I found that you're stern. But there's nothing wrong with being stern either when you're doing it with compassion, when you're doing it fairly, and across the board. So that was, I wanted to get that in there. That has just been my observation, because since I have been in general sessions, a lot of people say you walk all the time. And I do. I'm kind of all over the place because I want to see what's going on. You can't do that from an office on the 8th floor. You have to be able to get down into the courtrooms, down into the areas and different things like that. And because I do that and I'm in the hallways, I see how people handle people. And I see how people are receptive to a lot of the things that Judge Betty Thomas Moore has done. And I think that's why people keep reelecting her, because she is an individual who, and I'm not a commercial for Judge Betty Moore. I'm just telling you what I see, and I'm just telling you the facts. So if you had some advice for young people, because we got a lot of young people that are wayward. Sometimes people say, well, they lost. I don't think they're lost. I don't think we have a lost generation. I mean, personally, Mike Williams, I think we have a left generation, because I believe that there are those that have tried to pour back into them. I just don't think it's enough individuals, because like you said earlier, when you came up in South Memphis, just like I came up in North Memphis, I didn't know I was poor. I didn't know I was poor, man. Until people told me.
Until somebody told you.
Until somebody told me. I didn't know I was poor in comparison to other people, because I had love, I had the essentials, I had pride. We had pride in Manassas. I know she talked about Carver, but I'm a Manassite. So, but we had those. We had pride in Carver. There was nothing like Carver. You had that, that will never let Manassas fall kind of thing. You know what I mean? So for these young people that are out here, someone who has risen to the position of being a judge, the first female judge in General Sessions Criminal Court that kicked in those doors, knocked down those walls, that was married, had 2 kids, going to law school. What advice do you have for these young people?
Well, can I say this about what you said about compassion? The compassion is there from the way that I was raised, but not just that, but recognizing that whenever people have come through my court, mental health hearings, but for the grace of God, it could be me.
Come on.
It could have been me.
Come on.
And it could have been me not in my right mind right now. It could have been me or some of my family members. So I remember that. And when I talk to young folks, I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I'm like, I don't know what to label, if there needs to be a label, how to label our young folks. When you talk about Carver and Manassas, and the pride that we had in our neighborhood. Booker T.
But I was talking to somebody today. Booker T was it.
Booker
I
T.
was like,
Oh my God.
Manassas, baby.
Pastor Melvin Charles Smith. We hear him talk about
Good dude.
Oh my
That's my guy.
goodness. He's so into BTW. It's, but it's like, oh, thanks, Pastor. Okay. But we had that neighborhood stability, that neighborhood that was like that.
Right.
My mom on her block, she and Mr. Phillip next door, elderly man, they are the only two houses on that block in South Memphis. The other houses are torn down and one that is boarded up. There's blight, if you will, on the other side that I continue to call waste management and code enforcement about coming and getting the garbage up, dumping and stuff like that. In our neighborhood, where's the pride that we used to have?
Come on.
Where's the pride that we used to have in our neighborhood? Going by my mom's neighborhood, Mama could be sitting on the porch, and I'm sitting on the porch with her, and somebody would drive by and throw a bag of garbage out.
Right.
And she was really mad. She said, "Did you not see me sitting out here?" I'm like, "Calm down, Mom. You're 90 years old now. Calm down, Joanna." And I tell my kids that I talk with all the time to never give up. But here's the thing. My husband and I went to a forum that was put on by an organization of black men. And Mr. Hart and I can't think of the young man's first, because the first time I met him and I thought, oh my gosh. And he's the organizer, the founder of the organization. And they had young men and young women at this forum, and the bottom line, and then they had a panelist, about 8 or 9 folk. And the gist of it was, what is it that y'all want? What do y'all need? What can we do to make it better for you? You said early on in the program about people hurting. Our young folk are hurting.
Very much so.
Our young people are hurting desperately. And they have, I don't know if they have many more issues than when we were coming up. I think they do.
No, I know they do.
They have many more issues. And many more heartache, many more pain. Many more trauma. Than we probably have ever experienced in our childhood, because we had our neighbors to reach out and drag us in, and our moms and our dads that may have been there, because Mama was holding it down. Now you've got these really young mamas, or these older mamas that do their own thing, or you have mamas that work in 2 or 3 jobs themselves because they're trying to take care of family. It's a whole big issue, bigger issue than probably what it has ever been. And our kids are out there. They are just out there. What is the answer? I don't know. I don't even know. You know what? I take that back. I feel like if we start with our kids at a younger age, if we stop taking all of these good programs that used to, because the kids at the program were saying, at that forum was saying, if we had more programs that's available to keep, they were being honest, more programs that's available to keep us busy, more engagement, if people would listen to us, if our parents would listen to us, if our schools would listen to us, because they hurting. If they would just be able to speak and tell you what's going on with them. They're too frustrated. They're too afraid to tell you what's going on. They got peer pressure. They talked about that. The peer pressure that they have. The accessibility of drugs and guns and whatever else that's out there to lure them into an atmosphere of not being productive citizens. We got a lot of kids that are doing it, though. A lot of kids that are making it. A lot of kids that are out there and they're staying straight on the straight and narrow. But those kids, I would venture to say, that have that foundation, those parents, those guardians or whomever that's there to lead and guide them, make sure they stay on the straight and narrow. Probably like our mom and them.
Yeah.
They will smack you upside the head if you don't do what you're supposed to do. In a minute.
Yes.
You know my son Bobby, he'll tell you in a minute, he's still scared of his mama. He's 41 years old.
And he's a deputy.
And he works for the deputy. Oh, he'll tell you. Daddy Joe, oh yeah, I'm still scared of her. Yes.
Yeah.
You best to be.
You know, that's like them old moms, you know. I know my mom said, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. Don't you disrespect this family.
Exactly.
Or embarrass this family in public.
Yes, sir.
Okay, real quickly, we got about 3 minutes left. Look, you can just talk to an hour.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, and it was fun.
And it was great.
It was fun.
It was great sharing information.
You're up for re-election again.
Yes.
Tell the citizens of Shelby County why they should vote for you.
I'm good at what I do. And the reason, and I don't say that in a braggadocious way. I've been blessed to be good at what I do. I've been on the bench 24 years. I've been practicing law for over 30 years. I've been in the trenches. I've had people come before me. You know, I tell folks sometimes that when you go to law school, you get all that book learning. But by the time you get the book learning and you think that that's what's going to apply, all of it doesn't apply.
Right.
Real life is what applies. I know the people that come into my courtroom. I know how to treat folk. I know how to handle cases. I know the law. I know the rules and the procedures. And you need a good and faithful judge on the bench who believe in treating people fairly, applying the law, but listen to folks enough so that if there is anything else that you can do within the guidelines of the law, you can do it.
Right.
Those that come to my courtroom, 24 years, you get a feel for people. They get a feel for me. If I had a lady who came in a week and a half ago, and she's going to be coming back to court next week, an elderly lady on a walker. I don't want to mention her name because she's coming back to court. But she was coming to court by herself. She has a daughter that she's estranged from. It is an eviction case. They want her out of the property. And they want her out of the property not because she hasn't been paying her rent, but she's hoarding. She is hoarding.
Yeah. That's real.
And she has big drugs. Folks, I get so many elderly people that come through. And my thing at that time was, okay, so let us see if there is something that we can do with this case. Because where is she going to go? Where is she going to go? I get so many cases where I have elderly people who are in situations where there's an eviction, there's debt. I got lawyers that I called and I said, I need your help to do a pro bono case. You need to come and handle this case for this lady for free because she's 90 years old, she's 85 years old, she's 70 years old. And I got lawyers who have said, judges, if you need me for pro bono, call. And I'll call them. And I'm thankful for that resource. But there were resources, and there used to be tons of resources available, Mike, where I could pick up the phone, call MHA, and find other placement. But unfortunately, because of COVID, that has been difficult.
Right.
So my lawyers that come in to handle evictions, they know that Judge Moore is probably going to try to do something different. Let's give it a few days and we go from there. And so you got to have a judge that doesn't mind and will go the extra mile. I'm not saying that y'all pay me to be a social worker, but you pay me to be the kind of judge that has a little bit of compassion for the citizens of this community, that cares about this community, that loves the law, that cares about the law, and loves every day what she does. Because it's not just a job, it's a ministry. It's a ministry for me. I've been blessed to do it. I've been thankful to be able to do it. And I am seeking one more term, at least, I don't know. Because we need judges on the bench
Right.
that are like Betty Thomas Moore.
And you just heard from Judge Betty Thomas Moore, who is running for re-election, General Sessions, Civil Court Division 5. And I know for all practical purposes, I got Angel standing behind the camera, and she's ready to hit that button, but I ain't ready to go yet. She can edit this. Because there was something that I wanted to say. You know, a lot of times when people look at even individuals like me, I don't know it all. I want to tell you I don't know it all. And I want to tell you that even I was a police officer for 21 years. I felt like I had it down pat. Now I'm over in General Sessions, and it's a whole new ball game. And one of the things that I had asked is, how come people are not mentors? You know, those of us that think we've made it, or those of us that have ascended or aspired to be and we've achieved things. Now, I'm going to tell you this. And I'm not saying this for any particular, this is Mike Williams, okay? This is Mike Williams. One of the things I like about Judge Moore, she's even stern with me. She'd be like, Michael, I don't like this, and we're going to do whatever. And do you know it does not bother me? And I'm going to tell you why it does not bother me. Because when she tells me that something is wrong or she does not like this, she always counsels me with compassion and give me a solution to the problem. And that's what young people, I call myself young now, but I'm 61. But I'm young in the operations of the civil courts, just like I'm young in the operations of the criminal courts. And I don't know. So sometimes people have to say, well, now you know, boy, this right here now, this is what it is. And I'm going to tell you, publicly, I appreciate that. And I don't hold it against her, and I don't, because teach me, show me, give me the tools, because I want to be the best at what I do. I'm known for being the best or good at what I do, but I didn't get there the first day. I didn't get there the first year. I was a police officer for 20-something years, and I ascended to be the president of the Police Association. And believe me, I aspire to do some other things in the city of Memphis or the county of Shelby. And in order to do that, I have to learn along the way. And I'm going to tell you, it's because of people like Judge Betty Thomas Moore, who is no nonsense. She's going to put you on the right track. She's going to hold you accountable. And she's going to, at the same time, assist you along the way. That's the difference. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to Memphis 360. It's been a plum, pleasing pleasure. Once again, y'all know I get excited. It's Thursday, and it's just a great day to be alive. And any day above ground is a good day. So until next time, be blessed, be strong, be encouraged, and we'll see you next week.
We're gonna make you fall in love with SVPGD.